And we're live. Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to another session of TestMu Conference 2026. Hope everybody has been enjoying the day so far. We do had really great sessions so far. Few groundkeeping items. We are recording these sessions, so end of the day, if you want to check them out, you feel free to check them out as well. We are also going to share these across at our YouTube channel after the end of the conference, so you will get a chance to check over there as well. But yeah, thanks for joining in. Thanks for tuning in. We have a really great panel discussion happening today with three of the industry leaders in the space. Uh, Feel free to give us your feedback about the overall sessions that has been going so far. Tag us in the social media at Twitter, LinkedIn. Use the hashtag TestMuConf. And yeah, we'll be happy to hear your feedback. Now, getting back to the panel. First of all, I am Mudit. I will be the host and moderator for the session today. I'm one of the co-founders here at TestMu AI, and we have a pretty great, I'll say, a traditional session today. Kind of like we have been talking quite a lot about AI. While we will be doing that, but I think it's more important to take a step back and look at the macro as well, specifically how the quality engineering looks today, and not just today, how it will look tomorrow at an enterprise scale. And this is where what we're going to discuss more about today. So today we are joined by Senthil. Senthil is a quality engineering advisor with Vail Resorts. He has more than 20 years of experience across test automation, release engineering, engineering productivity. We also have Todd Lemmonds. He is the principal solution architect at TestMe AI, and he has spent last 25 years in quality engineering across companies like Boeing, Disney, Western Union, LA Rams, and currently working across testing of non-deterministic AI systems, testing AI agents with AI agents. And we are joined by Impu. Impu is the VP of Quality Engineering and Product at City Fund Teachers with more than 15 years of experience in quality engineering, and she has built teams from the scratch more than once. So thank you all three for joining us today's session and taking the time out. I know it's a busy day, but yeah, glad we can have you all here.
Thank you, Madit, for having us.
Thanks,
Thank
Madit.
you.
All right. So again, we kind of had this discussion a little bit in the backstage as well, but we do have a series of questions that I want to go through. But I'll keep the conversational, everything a little bit conversational. So, but that said, while we everybody here enjoy talking too much, including me, let's keep it to a little bit to the point. We are really interested in hearing your stories, your insights, and kind of do a little bit of deep dive into what's next. So I think that is the starting point of today's questions as well. How is the quality organization currently structured today? Specifically, if we take a comparison from 2 years back as AI entered into the picture. So as AI came into the picture, there has been a quite of change, both from personal level, the role change of every person, but mostly on the organizational structure level as well, on the overall quality ecosystem. And that's what I want to start with. How that looked like at your respective organization, respective team, right? So Senthil, let's start with you.
Yeah. Currently, I would say, we are more at an exploration phase, Madit, right? We are continuing to watch on the AI impact and the industry level and what it means to the quality engineering, right? So we are more trying to adopt and evolve along. But one thing what I can share is definitely AI is being an accelerator to the quality engineering and the engineers there, right? So earlier, if you see, a couple of years back, we were more looking towards a trend of manual testing merging or evolving into more automation. So now that we are seeing automation could be more accelerated with AI tools, now the engineers have more time to think. I think we are getting back into the circle of feedback, right, where human critical thinking becomes more value, I would say. So this actually, as a tool, is providing us that space, right? So we are exploring the opportunity for the engineers to play at a much higher level, where they can critically think, observe, put some guardrails, leverage the agents, and add some skills, fine tune that, right? and then play at a more like a role of a critical thinker, bringing more value towards quality engineering. I would say that is probably the more critical part of exploration that we are exploring.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So there is, of course, a lot of polarity in the ecosystem as well. A lot of people are just starting today, but in some people they are like, I have 14 Cloud Code windows open up in front of me. So we have quite a lot of polarity in that regard. And Todd, I think you have been talking to quite a lot of these customers as well from our
Yeah.
side. What's your take on this?
Well, I don't think the AI has really started to take effect until, I mean, really the beginning of this year. Once a true agentic engineering came available. Before then, some people had Copilot, some people used Claude to like check, but it was mainly like, let's see what it'll produce, and they would put something in like, oh, okay, it does test cases. But now with the starting when OpenClaw was released early this year, I think that's when the lights, not only on the testing side but on the development side. So I think that really the starting of the year is when it really started a hockey stick trajectory, and then QA was on its back feet because we didn't know how to handle all this code being released at us. So I think that we're kind of behind the eight ball a bit, and we have no choice but to learn how to move faster and validate faster. Before this time, I mean, we all talked about shift left, and we wanted to try to solve bugs as early in the software development lifecycle as possible. Um, but we never really solved the problem of how to build and maintain test cases as quickly as development could develop. It was the problem that we still had. Agentic QA, quality engineering, gives us a leg to actually combat and be able to keep up with this. So since joining TestMu 5 months ago, what I've noticed between all clients, and these are some of the best companies in the world, they're all trying to figure out how to implement these things. They're all implementing AI in some way, but everyone is having a problem orchestrating everything all together. And then number two, trusting the output of that orchestration. So that's the evolution we're going to be doing over the next year as we work with clients. I mean, I know, and I'm sure my passion here at TestMu AI is helping consult companies on how to implement these agents in a quality engineering software development lifecycle. And what I try to tell people, and I'll end here, is that there will be no more test engineers. There will be no more SDETs in the future. Everyone's going to be a QA architect, because you don't need to know all the coding and technology behind it, but you do need to understand how to architect quality into the application development process.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty great point. The role of every person in the team is also evolving along with the organizational structure, and that's pretty important point to take away. But before we close to that point as well, Impu, I really wanted to hear your take on this, how the team structure looks like at your side of things right now.
I think definitely I agree with Todd. When 2 years ago we started using mainly the Copilot, that helps us in just code, helping in coding, and we're trying to explore. But the real shift happened from January. Like it's a huge shift. Hey, you guys have to. Claude is here. Like you guys have to use it. Like how do you use it? A lot of questions. Hey, show us the demos. Like what's going on? Like what's the POC? So when that triggered, the whole organizational shift happened. Like we had a one-on-one, the product team ratio, like each product team had their own QAs and work on it. But now it's the whole structure changed from a embedded QA to a more pooled and floating QA models with the flex, which are flexed across the team based on what is the release risk, what is the load of those teams. And this is, I think that's how our organization changed. And also we have our own the QA team who was investing a lot of time in test generation. Now we have our own agent to create a test cases that happens in we already trained the agent. So it knows all the dependencies, cross-functional dependencies, and we also have our code review agent. So everything is like we are trying to evolve, and we are in a stage right now where the at least the basic the stuff which was having, which was more of tactical, is taken by AI, and we are more working on the real implementation on the strategic and risk based approach. I think that's a huge
So I
change.
think I think now we have a pretty great crowd. We have somebody who's exploring, and we have somebody who has been building AI agents of their own. So we have the polarity that I was talking about. So I think, Impu, I want to double down on that fact. Right now, you have seen the game. You have seen how the AI agents are changing the quality assurance role. So earlier, as Todd also mentioned and Senthil also mentioned, whenever somebody said testing, the first thing that popped up into the mind was an automation engineer or the SDET role as such, like that the guy's job is going to use Selenium or Appium or Playwright or something, Cypress or something, and start automating stuff. But today, that automation is taken care of by AI agents, right? So now the role we have seen is shifting towards, and I will quite sure a lot of companies are still not even figured out how to use AI agents or what that role looks like, what metrics to track. So which of these kind of old assumptions kind of no longer went true for you, that we were doing QA in some way before January, but one of the assumptions that we took was completely broken away when we started an agentic model. So what would be that assumption that you will talk about?
I think the biggest one is, writing the test scenarios or writing the test cases end to end, like, the cross function, like which was happening lot of tactical. I think that's going to be, at least it's almost eliminated in our case. It's mostly like the initial planning stage is taken care by the AI agent itself, like preparing for the test cases, identifying the dependencies, and also even in the pipelines, the bug triaging is also is like automatically it is going to the right teams. So at the first and foremost, I feel like slowly we are reducing the manual or the exploratory testing tester. uh, that is what I'm seeing, at least in my organization. It's slowly fading away, and we are like making it almost a mandatory for everyone to start using a cloud and to identify, and like, and we also are building a lot of skills which helps them speed up. So in my opinion, the slowly the exploratory tester or the manual testing roles are uh, reducing in number. I will not say it's completely eliminated, but it is drastically reduced in our teams.
So, Senthil, coming back to that same point, as you are ramping up your agentic ecosystem inside your company, what does it looks like? Like, what are the things that I will say find challenging to bring to the team as they move from their current way of doing things to an agentic way of doing things?
Yeah, yeah. One of the key things that I was focusing here from a quality engineering is, right, how do we position quality engineering to support engineering organization, right? I think the way how quality engineering was perceived a couple of years back was, right, like quality is always seen as a bottleneck or a overhead or a cost center, right? Uh, Ask any domain or any tech organization, quality is always seen as a cost center, meaning like they do not invest on that. So the big transition that I was focusing on, or like working with the leadership here, is how do we make sure that we are more value driven, right? So in that case, then how can quality engineering support engineering deliverable to release with confidence? That's where we were kind of focusing on. And the one of the huge values that we could double down on is the experience of this exploratory testers and other things, right? There is no question of the role is not going to change on the more adaptable we are, the better we are, right? So the experience is the value or the commodity that we should leverage, is what I would say to the engineers. And one of the couple of the key things that was really impactful for us with the agentic evolution, right? The developers velocity is like very fast. Now everybody can generate the code. Earlier, even with the automation part, right, automation was seen as one of the answers to fit into how the developer velocity. Now with developers also adopting AI, right, it has become even bigger a challenge, right? So how do we support them, and how do we plan our resources? That was a huge challenge with it, right? But we are exploring, we are also kind of adopting and then trying to shift left a certain responsibility. We are kind of exploring different responsibilities, different layers where we can focus on. And I would say the area where QE really can play on is the experience, like the system level knowledge, the product understanding, the nuances there, right? AI is not going to solve the problem, period, right? That's where we, even for the training, the QE engineers needs to play a big part. Now the question is, how can the organization support system help them in the transition, right? So that is something we are seeing as an interesting challenge, and something we have to put it as a foundation level right now, right?
I think that kind of answers one of the questions that I had written down as well. Like, what is the career path of the exploratory tester that looks like? But I see that yes, their experience still matters. Like, their system level information now becomes the codified thing. And I'm quite sure the skills that you're talking about, that is where that experience comes into the play, how to create working playbooks that coding agents can use to actually excel at what they do. But yeah, to complete the other thought as well, Todd, I think what your take looks like on this particular topic of the changing roles of QA.
Well, like I said, so the best exploratory tester are subject matter experts, people that are out in the field using the app, because they're the ones doing crazy stuff all day long and find stuff that we don't. But the thing that they don't have is the underlying system knowledge. So when they do run into a problem, isolating what the problem is that could then be fed back to the development team to fix, or the development agent. So that's why I don't think that the role of the exploratory tester will go away. I think that it will become the main thing, that if you're not a part of the architecture, putting the agents together and validating them, you're going to be exploratory testing. Because when you run into issues, you're going to be debugging it and then feeding that information back to the development agent. In my opinion, the biggest roles that will be impacted are developers, because I see a world where you have one developer controlling the development side of the fence and one tester controlling how the quality engineering and exploratory testing, and those two just pumping out stories together. And that's the world I see in the future. So to me, the bigger impact is going to be on the development side. And I think DevOps will eventually, because these agents know how to do DevOps. So what used to be a big blockage to how to set up pipelines and all these things, that's going away, because now your pod of one developer, one tester can now do DevOps, database management, develop the code, test the code, and just get the whole thing out the door. So I think everyone else is going to be affected a lot more than the testing organization.
That's pretty important take. We have been talking about shift left, not today. Like, I've been doing TestMu conference for 5 years, and the shift left thing has been talked about by like more than 6 years, 7 years. But
It's been for a long time.
long time. Same things like
15 years.
test-driven.
15 years.
Same thing like
since test-driven development was coined, that's when shift left started.
yes, but now we are able to see that those things were quite a lot of talk earlier, but now that things have suddenly started to become an actual practice. And I'll say one of the good advantages of AI has been that it has been actually able to run those kind of things. So you read the developer specs, create test cases before the developer creates the first line of code. So true TDD happening then and there. But I also think another problem comes up in all of this is who takes the final call right now, because we are moving everything from QA teams to developer side things, as we just talked about. And earlier QA were the gateway, they were the final sayer of things, that this is right, let's go ahead, this is not right, let's not go ahead. So in an agentic way, where even AI agents are making decisions, let's forget the developers and quality assurance team, but where the AI agent is making decisions, who is going to who is going to take the go no go decision, right? So that becomes a very important factor.
I'd like to weigh in on that first.
Yeah.
I worked with throughout my career, I worked with a meteorology company, and one of our projects is we built a launch commit dashboard for SpaceX. And what this did was it looked at all the weather conditions and it had all these rules. And if it ever broke one of those rules, a red light would show up on the dashboard. And if there was ever a red light on that dashboard, they would not launch the shuttle. They would delay it for a day, a week, month, whatever the rules. So if you look at that in a development, you basically need to build a launch dashboard for, and if any of those quality gates are broken, you don't launch. And the only way you can launch when a red light appears on it is if someone higher up, like someone that is responsible for the business aspects of it, chooses to launch with that red light. So at the end of the day, the business is the one responsible. We're QA, quality engineering. We're like the weather. A weatherman. We tell them what the weather is, and if they decide to go outdoors without an umbrella, that's their decision. So who makes that decision? The business makes the decision. It's our job to give them the information to make that decision.
So Impu, coming to you, said you have already built up an agentic system, and Todd just talked about dashboards. So how does that map at your organization? Like, is the dashboards the only gateway, or is there other checks and balances in place?
No, we use the dashboard, and also we even now the QA is our final checker in our company. Like if the QA says like, "Hey, everything is good, we are ready to deploy," that is the point where we go to the business. It's like, "Hey, everything is good." The QA is given the approval, and that's when if the business says, "Okay, go ahead," we will deploy. So it's QA is still the gatekeeper right now, even with like using the AI and everything, because we also have developed the framework like a detox framework which already developers are using for their unit test. We build that integration test using that framework, so that's already integrated within those pipeline. Soon after the unit test, the integration test runs, then it gives the pass or fail immediately to them, so they don't have to wait till the pre-prod. They can even do it in their dev environment itself. But at the end, when it comes to pre-prod deployment, from pre-prod to production, it's still the QA, the gatekeeper. Like we make a decision whether it's going or not for the deployment.
So Senthil, coming to you, how is that the transition step looking out for at your org, where I'm quite sure the dashboards are still there, but now we have more things to report in that dashboard because of AI agents. So what are the things that you are actually looking at? And again, who takes the go no go decision? How you're deciding that factor? Is the AI agents going to take the decision? The QA teams? How's that decision happening?
This is a very interesting question, and I'll try to be switching gears a little bit, right? Culture plays a big part. One thing historically in the past that we have seen is, right, quality team was owning and accountable for, right? So that means like there is a culture that could develop in terms of passing the ball to quality team and then let them decide whatever it is, right? You're passing the burden, right? Um, Learning from those behaviors, what we are focusing on is building a culture of combined responsibility. Like responsibility is obviously like what Todd and Impu said, right? Like the business or the entire different organization is going to be responsible for the quality, but the expertise is going to be in the quality engineering team, right? So what we are shifting towards is in terms of building a governance kind of a layer, right? So where the quality engineering team becomes that governance layer. We do definitely have different gates of QA, staging, pre-prod, based on different services there, right? So evidences are definitely used from a dashboard point of view, but especially in the agentic era, right? We don't know if agents are going to make mistakes. So we want to be a little bit, we are going with a lens of cautiousness, right? And leveraging the quality engineering team to bring that consciousness and build this governance layer where we also make sure that the emphasis for unified responsibility in terms of quality gates are there, but at the same time the quality engineering becomes that advocate and that governance body to highlight if there is something that goes on, whether it is an agentic notification or indicators, or it is something that we are seeing as a failure in our test automation runs, right? We are going in that direction in terms of building the culture also, not just from our gates. Obviously, our emphasis is going to be like data-driven decision making, so evidence plays a big part. But at the same time, we are also focusing on building a culture of combined responsibility with a governance layer on top of it.
So I think that opens up a pretty great concept, data-driven decision making. So, and it opens up my next question as well. And Senthil, I'll want to double down with you on this. What is the new stuff that you are tracking or showing in that dashboard or giving back to the business team? Everybody talked about that. Yes, the business team is going to take decisions, but that is driven by some kind of data, some kind of metrics. And there was, as we mentioned, there were old way of doing things, and now after January, there are new way of doing things. So, what are those new things that we are adding to the governance layer to that data-driven decision making that were not there earlier?
Couple of things that I would like to call out. Obviously, we are exploring different metrics, which makes sense for us, which is probably not making sense for us, and we are constantly revisiting that. Right. One of the key part that we are taking very cautious steps is false positives. In terms of our indicators, right? So where we are building like CI/CD pipeline and agentic responses, and agents are doing some testing and raising the flags, and test automation engineers are producing their own test automation. Obviously, manual engineers are like cross-checking, right? Right now, we are having, I would say, like an overlap of redundancy through the exploratory testing to revalidate. It's like kind of like an agentic model where you have an evaluation layer that is built on, right? So something like that, there is an evaluation metrics that we are leveraging from the exploratory testing, right? What that will give us the confidence of our agentic results and also the automation results, uh, quantified by our manual testers or exploratory testers observations, right? That right now we are trying to make sure we have the metrics that is more balanced out, and I think that is a key focus for us right now. Obviously, the other metrics is on the velocity, right? Like there is a huge disparity. I would say it is very fluctuating. Like some sprints, we follow like agile sprint approaches. Some sprints, the developers' velocity is so fast that we can't match it out. But in some sprints, we are able to match it out. But through our evolution, we are able to see that we are being more predictable in terms of our turnaround time, right? Like say if a stories are like given to us from a test point of view, right? What is our turnaround time that is going to be? Again, correlating to the value that we are going to deliver to the engineering, right? Big part is quality should not be seen as a bottleneck. So can we be very predictable in terms of turnaround time, right? Those are like
Awesome.
some of the new metrics, not just focused on test case and test execution, but we are trying to fit into metrics that are more useful for engineering delivery.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. So, Impu, what's your take on this? Like you have already, as mentioned, doing a lot of the report gets sent to the business. What are the new things that they are also looking at now?
I think the biggest one, what we made a changes were initially we were like, test executions, how many test cases we had, like how many bugs we found. I think the biggest change we made in this year is change failure rate. Change
Mhm.
failure rate is something which started like getting that numbers started giving more visibility into why do we need QA, like how are QA contributing, right? The because change failure rate is like how many bugs are introduced in production after every deployment. So that has significantly reduced, like in almost like in 6 months we had only one or two bugs which were introduced in the production. So that helped us. And another one is DRE, defect removal efficiency, like how many bugs are found in our UAT versus production. So when we started tracking this, like we were having like we started off with 30, like almost we are at 75 to 80%. So that is also a good measure to show the business and our executive team, like how the QA team can effectively contribute in more like smooth deployment or better result, and also the 7 issues. These three are the ones which we track and we report.
S- that's pretty awesome. There are quite a new terms over here, and I think everybody would be googling quite of those terms when they go back. But Todd, I think one other interesting point, and I think you would be able to help us out, is because now the AI agents are part of the picture. The new metrics also looks how to ensure that the AI agents are also doing what they are supposed to do, right? So considering that you have been working on testing of AI agents themselves, how does those new metrics gets added to the dashboard? The agentic responses or the, I will say the eval stats would be one, but what more? What more you are seeing in the out there?
Uh,
Well,
Honestly, like when we have an AI agent which is like that is creating a bug for us, like it goes to Jira and opens up a bug, so we know that what is being like found in our pipeline and created by an agent, and what is the real manual test, like when we did the manual tests and open the bug. So that's how we can that's how we can show the business, like, hey, this is what the agent found, and this is what our the real QAs found. That is what the difference we have to show to everybody. I think right now Claude does everything. That is the concept which every company is following. I think Claude can do everything, right? Like you go anywhere, oh, Claude can do everything. Like I'm like almost listening to the same concept in every company. But once you have the proper way of showing the metrics, what an agent can find, what an QA can find, I think that is how we can show the real difference to the executive team.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Todd, coming back. What does your side of the picture looks like when we are
Well,
talking about testing of AI agents as well?
so testing of AI agents, the metrics are completely different. I mean, a lot
Yep.
mainly because of the type of testing that you have to do against an agent. It's non-deterministic in nature. So you're looking at things like how consistently does it do, consistency. With a deterministic test, you're expecting 100% consistency across runs. But with non-deterministic, you have different hallucination. You never have to worry about, I mean, sometimes you wonder if testers are working in general, but you never have to worry about them hallucinating. So this is like a new new thing that, agent um, accuracy, so like you're constantly looking at accuracy of an agent, to Impu's point, they divide, what a human can do with an agent so that they can compare which one's more accurate. I mean, ideally we could live symbiotic with these agents and just trust that they're going to work, and it will get there eventually. But right now we're in this adversarial phase with these agents with who can do the job better. I mean, it's just the name of the game right now. How fast the agents can work. So you're looking at the speed, the speed of them. So altogether, there are a lot of different metrics you're doing, but the end goal that we're trying to get to is the same. So those follow the normal traditional testing cycles of, you know, mean time to recovery, defect slippage. And so if you have dev agents, you're going to still check, you'll do project A all with agents, project B with humans. You want to see, how many bugs slip into production from that, right? Or how, the UAT, there'll be this comparison between human and agent until we get to a point where we just trust what each other does and we understand how each other works, and then we can just follow the traditional software development lifecycle with a much more scaled down resource pool.
No, that makes complete sense, and I think there are some questions in the Q&A section I was looking at. It kind of opens up. Let me see if I'm able to pin it to the
A
screen.
lot of questions in there.
Yes. This is one of the very interesting ones I saw. Like, what is the threshold? If an AI that can do 95% of the things right, and Impu also talked about it, that we need an evidence before we can take a go and no go decision. So if an AI is right 95% of the time, then that means there is double work. That means it's not 100% perfect. So we have to need to go and check the evidence every time to ensure that 5% slippage is not there. Or there's the other way around, like it's not as efficient, but it's still able to do or able to ask questions. And I think this has been a topic of my talk as well some time back. AI agents are confidently wrong. They are not great at telling you that they went wrong. They will say they will not say I think it is the answer. I assume it is the answer. They will say this is the answer. You figure out if it is right or wrong, right? So what is the two model that we are looking at speed or the efficiency, or we are looking at the AI agents that can be wrong but still get the job done at a faster pace, or AI agents that are not fast but and ask the right questions at the last time but are slow.
I can take a quick
Yeah,
stab at that. Vidit. To me, right, trust, it comes to the cornerstone of trust, right? And the quality engineering is built on the trust, right? So, and when an AI agent is like 95% accurate, 90, it probably doesn't make a big difference. But it's a question to your point, right? Yeah, the right question to ask is it going to break our test? And I'm sure like agents are like very bad in terms of like telling the data, wrong data also is as accurate as possible. So any deviations that we have should be compared against the trust model that we would want to follow on, and then make sure that the responses are trustworthy. Like to your point, if an agent cannot find the right answer, it is better to say I'm not skilled enough, I cannot get you that answer, or I cannot execute what you're asking for. Proceed with a human in the loop, right? I think that is the model right now. I would say recommend it, mainly because trust is a very important factor, and we do not want to take, at least from a quality engineering, we don't want to take a call. Right? Development is a very different ball game, right? They could take chances, but from a quality engineering, the adoption of AI, we need to be very, very strict, I would say.
makes sense. Makes sense. Doubling down on that, Impu, I think this is for you as well. So there is another connected question related to this. You talked about evidence. So what is the limit of those evidence? So when we talk about that, agent has to be correct, but at the same time, you talked about evidence. What is the threshold? Like how much of evidence is required for what kind of things, but and what kind of things like evidence are not as much required?
I think as a QA, with my experience, evidence is required for everything we test, right? Like, I
Yeah.
started my career when, even the testing, I had to take the screenshot and keep it, because if the developer will come back and like, oh, no, QA did not test it. I'm like, no, 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 you made a mistake in deployment, right? So I think evidence is required in every stage. Even with the agents, I feel the need for evidence is more than ever now, because we are completely thinking like, oh, AI is going to, the agent is going to take care of everything, but we don't know. Like you run the agent and you sleep and you come back in the morning. If there is no evidence of what is really, it was missing, what happened, so we cannot
Mhm.
fix that issue, or we cannot even identify what the issue was, right? If there is, if it can be if the issue is not a reproducible issue, like if it is only sporadic, if it is a human, they
Mhm.
can explain what happened. If with the agent,
Yeah,
we need more evidence, like more, in order to see that what exactly happened at what time. So I think evidence is more important in this with agent than the previous years. And especially the evidence, if you ask me what are those, like maybe mainly like what did it test, like what at what time it tested, and what are those, like at least have a quick high level. The moment it fails, it has to capture those and put it in the ticket, so that we know that it tested and this was the result.
Todd, your take on this.
To Impu's point, I mean, the evidence of testing is very important. Now, a lot of
Mhm.
that can be captured. So whether it's an agent or a human, right? And that's the beautiful part of like a lot of, sorry to self promote, but a lot of our tooling, 𝐭e'N AI, hyper execute, you get video artifacts, you get step by steps of what's going on. So just implementing some simple tooling, you can capture both the actions of the agent as well as the human testers, and then provide that all as artifacts. The other part that I wanted to, uh, it's expected that these agents are going to be 100% right, but what is your process to improve the agents? There's got to be a recursive nature for these pipelines to where you're tracking where they're going wrong so that you can improve them over time. So that, in a lot of the architectures I put together today, there's always a summary of what happened that goes somewhere that a future agent can look at it and understand where it went wrong the last time. So as you're developing these agents, you need to ask yourself, where's the recursive nature of our agent pools? How are our agents learning when they do things wrong? And because without that, then they'll never be able to prove. And I think these agents can improve and will improve. But do you have the architecture so that it has context of your business and what it did wrong so that it can improve in the next iteration?
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think we only have around 4 minutes left, and I want to ask a question that has a bigger, longer answer. So I'm gonna use that. How the organization structure looks like in 2027 in each one of your teams, right? So I want to close off with that conversation. We have quite a lot of folks who have joined us who are either at early stage or mid stage of their career, and this is what quite a lot of people have asked us as well. And of course, there is a lot of noise over Twitter, LinkedIn, social media platforms related to team restructuring, resizing, right? So two things. And Senthil, let me start with you. Two questions. How does you think the team looks like? Is it expanding, contracting, staying the same? That is question number one. And question number two is, what are the new skill sets you are looking at when either you are upskilling your current team or adding new members?
Great question, and I'm glad that we got an opportunity to touch upon that topic.
Yeah.
Definitely, the team is expanding, right?
Mhm.
The only question is, do we have the right people in the right seat for the expanding journey that for this next year that we go on? And from my experience or what I see, one thing that I would recommend the quality engineering folks is to upskill themselves in terms of system design, DevOps, and whole release from a process point of view, right? Again, going back to the value that we will provide on the engineering, right? Where engineering team is always going to be relying on people is in terms of how do we deliver quality and how do we deliver value to our end customers, and that cannot be or will not be dependent on like a machine taking that decision, right? There needs to be a human in the middle, and I think that is where I see our folks can upskill and then fill in that gap. So it is definitely like a transition or like a change in the dynamics in the organization structure, and if we can adopt to that thing, right? So more understanding about DevOps model and also system design, so that way you can kind of contribute to like a quicker delivery or like a quicker design thinking or like figure out what are the trade-offs, because quality is very subjective, right? We don't want to put our foot and then say, hey, I'm not going to release this because so and so is the case, right? So how can you be that partner to the developer? How can you understand the trade-off? How can you also understand the end customer's impact, right? And also be that release like a governance factor. I would say that's where the opportunity that I'm seeing, where it could also strengthen and expand the team, right?
Impu, over to you. Like, are you expanding the team, keeping it the same, contracting, and what are the skill sets you are looking at the new team members or upskilling the existing ones?
I think I'm going to keep the same team, and it's mainly upskilling the team. We are already in the process. Like we had everybody get the cloud training, and they're all getting up to the speed on that. And also, I think it's mainly for the young professional who are entering the career. I think I as a QA, right? Like they may be the best persons, like they may have a best skill to use AI, but the
Mhm.
main thing as a QA is the critical thinking and also how they understand the application, right? SMEs, like if you don't understand the business end to end, even with the highest
Mhm.
cloud skill or whatever the AI skill, it's of no use. The value of a QA depends on how much we know about the business. That business knowledge is very, very important. So try to be the SME along with your technical skills. I think that is what will get you a good growth. Whether you want to be the best AI engineer or AI QA architect, but I think those are the two skills I think is going to help everybody. Like be the SME, like don't depend 100% on the AI to give you the every details. Okay, hey, cloud AI will give me what is the requirement. Oh, AI will tell me the dependencies, right? So try to understand the business from a end to end perspective and then use your AI skills. That is what is my suggestion, I think, at least for the young professionals. There are a couple of Gen Zs working with me, so I always tell them the same advice. Guys, you might be the best in using AI, but your SME knowledge is very important.
Hmm.
No, that definitely
Absolutely.
makes sense. That definitely tracks as well what we have been seeing across our customers, across even our teams as well. But one other thing I want to double down as well. So we mentioned of course, AI is an enabler rather than the doer of things, and ultimately, the decision making is still at the
Yep.
QA side of things. And we just established this fact. And earlier, everybody, whenever somebody said QA, the skills they first checked was how good they are in automating stuff or how good they are in Selenium or Playwright of the
Yes.
world. Now, that is what AI is taking care of. So, what is left? Left is the business side of things. That quality angle becomes more prominent now. But AI side of things, you mentioned skills earlier. So I'm talking about here the agent skills. How is that upskilling happening at the team?
So there are a lot of training which we are giving on how to create the skill, and also we have couple of test like two test leads. They are working on the skills, and they are also training our team, because we have a very good structure of cross training. Like our company gives every week 4 to 5 weeks dedicated for cross training, so that the team can learn. And I think that's how it is going on right now in our company. I think, to be honest, some of them are picking very fast, especially the people who just came out of the college. They're amazing, like very good. I don't have to train them too much on Claude, but I think mainly the business. Overall, cross training is going on because we are providing them. Like there is a custom made training. It's not something outside where you go and get the certifications.
Mhm.
I think that also touch base upon the culture factor that Senthil also talked about. I think you have made it a culture inside your team that we have to train them and we have to train them properly. So I think that quite acts as a good competitive edge. Todd, last to
Yeah,
you, right? How?
the skills that are needed is when you go into a job and they give you a task, if you can do that task and then immediately train an agent to do that same task that you just did, you now have the skills for the next 5 years, because that's where it's going to be at. Now, to Empu's point, learning the business is critical. Like, I mean, I like you need to understand if you want to keep yourself valuable in the next. You need to understand the business better than the SMEs. So whatever you got to do to get that information out of them, that's where you need to go first and foremost. Secondly, once you learn how that SME does their job, can you train an agent to do that job that the SME just did? If you can answer yes to both of those, you're ready for the next 10 years.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. I guess, folks, we are at time. I think I took 2, 3 more minutes. I'm getting message from backstage that we are on time. But yes, again, Impu, Senthil, Todd, really enjoyed the conversation. I think we can go few more hours just discussing the same topics, but
And
we are at less time. Maybe
I'm
off
sorry we
stage.
didn't get to answer I'm sorry we didn't get to answer all these questions, man. There were
Yeah.
a lot of us
Yeah,
here.
yeah. One thing we can do, Todd, I think you and me, we can co-author a blog on this. Like I find really great points over here to talk more about. But
Yeah.
yes, for people on this, we did record the session. You will be able to see this inside the ecosystem, Zuddle ecosystem, and we will be uploading it over on YouTube. And again, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Senthil, Impu, Todd, for taking the time out, walking us through your insights. Really enjoyed the discussion.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes.
Thank
Good
you.
luck in your future endeavors, everybody.
Thank you,
Okay. Bye
everyone.
bye.
Have a great TestMu conference. We have a lot more planned up for you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.